Hi, I'm Gauthier Rousseau and I will present a proceeding for RiverFlow 2020 entitled Modeling Turbulent Stream Flows over Rough Permeable Beds. Modeling such flows may be useful for numerous scientific issues, but in river it's related to the exchange between the water table and the free surface, also called hyporheic exchange, but here we'll focus more on the vertical structure of such flow from the free surface to the subsurface in order to better explain flow resistance in rivers and more specifically in mountain rivers. So here are two pictures of mountain rivers that are shallow and turbulent open channel flows with steep slopes and flow depth and bed roughness within the same order of magnitude ranging from centimeters to meters. So giving motion to the left picture, you may see a bed form which is called a riffle and typically exhibit the shallowness of such flows. Looking at a slice in the wall normal streamwise plane, we may identify the complexity of such flows. The gravity drives the flow in the surface but also in the subsurface, and due to the large grain sizes, the bed is potentially highly permeable. Since the difference between the flow depth and the grain size is important, we define the relative submergence, which is small in this context. Because inherent difficulties exist in defining the flow depth, there is difficulty also to relate depth average velocities of flow depth in this environment. But despite these inherent difficulties, there is an abundant technical literature trying to develop flow resistance equations in order, as you know, to better predict floods or sediment transport. Focusing on flow resistance topic, we usually plot the non-dimensional Chauzy coefficient that relate these quantities as a function of the relative submergence. Here are data collected by Reckenmann and Recking from many studies and plotted in this C submergence plot. As expected, for large submergence you reach a plateau which is generally given by the constant Chauzy coefficient 16. But then for low submergence we also observe a large dispersion of field measurement data. To predict flow resistance, we usually semi-empirical laws that have been developed for flows over impermeable beds that are the Culligan or Strickle law. But authors like Reckermann and Recking, or other authors in the same period, developed power laws that are more accurate in this context, but that are calibrated on these field data. So they were able to reproduce the trend, but then they are not physically based, and then we were interested to explain the trend, so from physics based, so from the underlying physics. So that's why we were interested to develop a model to model the vertical structure of such flows. When we speak about the vertical structure, it's at the double average, using the double averaging approach, which means that we average in space on the length at a given vertical position on a slab parallel to the mean bed. So here, so the length must be high enough to reach the mesoscale level, which means that we reach a statistical convergence of quantities, which are the average velocity, but also the porosity profile. The porosity is the volume of voids over the total volume, and which is 1 in surface layer, on which you reach the bulk porosity in the porous bed. Modeling this flow, there is the basic framework of the Reynolds average Navier-Stokes equation, but with the double averaging approach we have the double average Navier-Stokes equations that we here consider only the 2D equation. And then in addition to the viscous and the turbulent stress, the double averaging approach, the volume averaging produces the viscous and pressure drag as well as the dispersive stress, also called form-induced stress. So here we have an experimental challenge, since to devise a model we need experimental data that on a representative elementary volume where we reach a statistical convergence, so which must be large enough. And then that's why also we need to collect data in this volume. We need to collect data in the subsurface and in the roughness layer, so that's why we use the refractive index matching method that allows to match the solid transparent beads here with a special fluid, and then to look through the porous medium. So here's the setup, and this is a tilted flume, 6 cm width flume, where we were able to have a unidirectional flow here in this region, and more importantly is the density ratio that ensure, since it was high enough to ensure no solid transport while we were in supercritical regimes as observed in mountain rivers. So here is just a video summarizing the experimental setup and processing. So in the end we had the region of interest, so the representative elementary volume that was in the middle of the flume here, and we used bead dispersed glass beads in order to avoid self-structuration of the bed, and then laser sheet. So the concept of the methodology was to have a laser sheet traveling through the medium in the transverse direction to collect in the same time the bead position as well as the velocities, and the velocities were captured by tracers that were captured. The movement of the tracers were captured with O'Keefe Python package algorithm that allows the local optical flow measurements of the particles. And then here are the velocity field measurements, and collecting in different successive planes. We were able to have the streamwise one normal turbulent first and second order statistics, and then if you average far enough from the sidewall, you are able to reproduce volume average vertical profiles. So here are the volume average vertical profile for the velocity, and the only difference between the two runs is the slope. And for higher slope, of course, you have higher velocity, and since the flow rate is the same, you have a lower flow depth. But also you can identify the difference in the subsurface region as well in the roughness region, and you see that there is a higher velocities for higher slope as expected. For an important point is the vertical origin choice, and we choose the position for which we have a porosity equal to 0.8. This choice is done to better compare profiles where we were changing the randomly packed bed between each runs. So I will not go further for the sake of consistency in the different closure choices, but then just to summary, we choose the Ergun law for the drag forces. We use also the viscous stress since we were between laminar and turbulent regimes in our setup. The dispersive stress, we developed a closure that needed test and improvements, but we were able to reproduce the shape of the dispersive stress. And for the turbulent stress, we have this closure for the mixing lengths that take into consideration the damping, embed the damping effect, as well as the turbulence, how evolve the turbulence in the roughness layer. So it was difficult to connect how evolve the turbulence stress inside in the roughness layer and also in the surface layer. So with these closures, we were able to produce a vertical profiles for a given setup, given run, for several runs. So here is one run, and here you can see that how we modeled the mixing length. So with a constant mixing in the subsurface, and you increase the mixing, but also you see that the trend is different than the classical 0.4 von Karman constant times the vertical position. since we were introducing the damping effect. So encouraged by this good agreement, we were thinking to apply these predictions to real conditions, flow in real conditions. Since we were in low Reynolds number, we were thinking to compare to flow in rivers. So that's why we took some videos from UAV to have order of magnitudes for a river called Navigance here, order of magnitude of surface velocity, but also grains and slopes. And slopes were obtained with a digital terrain model. And then we were able to generate profiles from the model to then compare the surface velocity from the model to the surface velocities collected by the large-scale PIV. In the end, we obtained good agreement, and encouraged by these results, we were thinking then to compare different combinations of grain sizes and depth and slopes in order to generate different non-dimensional Chezy coefficient and for different submergence. And coming back to the plot that we saw before, and here are two simulated profiles, and just to explain you better the link between these profiles and here this point. So here is for these 2 points we just depth average quantities to obtain the depth average velocities, and then to produce the C coefficient, and then we also had a submergence here. So we are able for each simulated profile to locate the points here. Interestingly here we have a lower velocity in the surface and a higher velocity in subsurface for the solid line. The higher velocity in subsurface is expected since we are in higher slopes, and the lower velocity in the surface is expected since we are at a lower flow depth. We can do it for many modeled profile for all the combinations, and we see that here we reproduce the trend. So we were happy for that because we reproduced the trend of the field data, and also for identifying the role of the depth definition, we also employed another flow depth definition, which is the ratio between the flow rate per unit width over the depth average velocity. And we see that here in low submergence conditions we can differentiate the points, while for large submergence we cannot. So here there is clearly a role of the flow depth definitions in the dispersion of the points. So to conclude, so double average profiles have been collected for modeling the vertical structure of turbulent flows from an experimental setup where the Reynolds number were not as high as observed in nature. So that's why we wanted to compare simulated vertical profile and surface velocities of what we observe in field, and also compared to flow resistance equations, and we had finally a good agreement, which is encouraging. And so the perspective for us is to simplify the model for real river applications, since we devised closure for quasi-laminar to highly turbulent flows. So there is potentially simplifications to be done. But this model, since is versatile, it could be applied for a large variety of flows like canopy flows or biphasic for predicting sediment transport in mountain rivers or other settings. So thank you for your attention. I wish you a pleasant virtual river flow conference, and I'm waiting to see your talk, and waiting also to answer to your questions. If you have, don't hesitate to contact me by email, and see you. Bye bye.